Who would have thought that this year's Simpsons Treehouse of Horror would actually turn into a legitimate horror story? The gore is so intense that we have to censor the whole video to make sure nobody passes out from the shock. Remember when Bart made Sideshow Bob sing that part from HMS Pinafore? Back then, Bart was clever enough to escape his predicament, but in another parallel universe, things went very differently. After Bob finished the song, he realized something was wrong. Bob figured out that Bart was just doing all that to stall for time. Bart stopped pretending and started mocking Bob instead. Right then, Bob swung his blade and brutally murdered Bart. Blood splattered everywhere and the whole thing was seen clearly by Lisa. This left a massive scar on Lisa's soul. Over the years, Lisa dedicated herself to studying criminal psychology and became a professor in the field. She even wrote books to try and escape the trauma of her childhood. Time flies, and years later, the old bully Nelson has become the police chief. Nelson comes by because he has something very important to tell Lisa. Recently, a series of incredibly vicious murders has rocked Springfield. At the crime scene, the killer left a message for Lisa, almost like they were saying hello to her. After further investigation, they find Rod is the first written by Rod's bed. Rod was Flanders' eldest son, but he had grown up to be a foul-mouthed comedian. But could that really be the reason he was killed? For a case filled with so many mysteries, only a profiler like Lisa could piece together what happened. Looking at the details, Lisa deduced that after killing Rod, the murderer was calm enough to play a game of tic-tac-toe. Then they played a game of solitaire, but they made a mistake by stacking a red card on top of another red card. Normally, you have to alternate between red and black. So this suggests the killer is someone who doesn't like to follow the rules. But knowing only these clues wasn't enough to find the culprit. Meanwhile, the killer was still active. On a dark and rainy night, Ralph's brother was murdered. The killer even took the time to turn Ralph's brother into a human clock. Lisa was confused about why the killer wrote the first on the wall until the next victim appeared. Then, Lisa finally understood. What the killer meant by the first wasn't actually about the order of the murders. It had a completely different meaning. The victims kept piling up, and each crime scene was more elaborate than the last. Sherry, one of the twins, was killed. Her body was dismembered and arranged into a domino-like contraption. Then, by using a rolling eyeball to trigger a chain reaction, the device eventually turned on a coffee machine. This level of madness was far beyond anything Lisa could have imagined. Because of this, Lisa had to go consult someone. The man locked away in Springfield maximum security prison, Sideshow Bob. When she saw him, Bob didn't feel a shred of guilt toward Lisa. He even started joking about Bart's gruesome death. But Lisa couldn't worry about that if she wanted to catch the killer. She asked Bob to look at the case and explain the deeper meaning behind the first. Bob spoke in riddles, making Lisa guess what he meant. But everything Bob said was focused on the horrible way Bart was killed. These were the exact memories Lisa wanted to forget. Even though Lisa wished Bob would just rot in his cell, she had to solve this murder case first. At the Springfield cemetery, it turns out Marge had died from a broken heart after Bart was killed, and Homer had accidentally drowned. But none of that mattered right now. What mattered was Sherry's funeral. Nelson wanted to know who would have a motive to kill her, but Terry didn't know who would want to kill her sister. "Weren't you two twins?" Nelson asked. After Terry explained, Lisa finally realized that Sherry was the one born first. Now Lisa finally understood that the first meant the firstborn child, the eldest. With this crucial lead, Lisa thought back to Sideshow Bob's riddles and successfully deduced the next crime scene. It was going to be an abandoned slaughterhouse. Lisa and Nelson drove straight to the scene to find the killer. As soon as they walked in, Nelson was almost killed by a swinging hook. He told Lisa to stay where she was while he went in to investigate alone. Lisa waited for a long time, but there was no sign of Nelson, so she went inside to look for him. Before she knew it, blood began dripping from the ceiling, a grim sign that Nelson had been killed. Terrified, Lisa ducked into a room, but the decor looked strangely familiar. It was a perfect replica of Lisa's own bedroom. She found a security tape and watched it, only to see that she was the one who killed Nelson. Right then, the police found the room, and Lisa was arrested. Even after being caught, Lisa couldn't believe she was actually a psycho killer. Meanwhile, Bob was being moved to a different cell because he was causing trouble. But when Bob walked in, in. He saw that Lisa was also locked up in the same place. Finally, the mystery was revealed. The reason Lisa used such brutal methods to kill so many people was so she would be locked up in Springfield maximum security, just like the monster sideshow Bob. Being locked up with Bob wasn't just a stroke of luck, though. Bob never thought Lisa would be the killer, but she explained that while that Lisa isn't a killer, this version of her definitely is. Bob immediately understood. Lisa had split personality. Bob tried to wake up Lisa's good side, but what he didn't realize was that her good side was actually helping her evil side the whole time. The good side helped the evil side commit these crimes one by one without being caught. But now, Lisa's good side is gone. Only the evil side remains, even though the rating for this whole episode wasn't that high. I personally think this short story was the best one in this year's Treehouse of Horror. If 10 is a perfect score, I'd give it an 8. In this 7-minute short, everything from the attention to detail to the creepy atmosphere was great. Starting and ending the story with HMS Pinafore was a nice touch. It started with Bart's death and ended with his revenge. I'd call this episode a mix of the movie 7 and Silence of the Lambs. The overall storyline and atmosphere were very similar to the movie 7. In that movie, it's always raining, and the killer leaves strange messages on the walls. All of that corresponds to this episode, especially the English title of the movie 7, where they replaced the letter V with the number 7. That perfectly matches how the number 8 on the door was rewritten in this story. The movie 7 is definitely a masterpiece, but it's very depressing, even more suffocating than Silence of the Lambs. Speaking of Silence of the Lambs, this episode actually pays homage to it several times. In the beginning, Lisa is like the lead character Clarice, but by the end, she turns into Hannibal. This is mostly seen in the scenes between Lisa and Bob. In Silence of the Lambs, Clarice seeks out Hannibal for clues, just like Lisa goes to Bob for help with the killer. Hannibal was always very provocative when talking to Clarice, and Bob acts the same way here. Beyond that, Lisa's psychological state is similar to Clarice's. In this episode, Lisa is haunted by the trauma of her brother's death, just as Clarice was haunted by her father's. The difference is that in the movie, Clarice never became Hannibal. In this story, Lisa does. She kills with Hannibal's elegance and listens to beautiful music while she does it. It's also worth noting that the way Ralph was tied up was very similar to the scene where Hannibal kills a police officer. Making these deep dive analysis videos is really hard work. I hope you guys will give the video a like and a recommendation. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next one.